Welcome everybody to the Hula Hoop Office presented by Shepherd's Business Interiors and Orangebox. I'd like to introduce you to our SBI's Architectural Solutions Specialist, Joe Nedo.
Thank you for joining us today to learn about the solutions that Orangebox came up with in their research to create a safe environment in our current world. I think that you're going to find this a refreshing and engaging virtual experience as we take part in a live tour in London. I'd like to first do a really quick introductions to those that made this event possible. My name is Joe Nedo, and I'm the Architecture Solutions Specialist at SBI. I serve as a subject matter expert and provider of consultative support for the product portfolio encompassing modular walls, underfloor electrical solutions, sound masking, and office pods like that of the AirPods from Orangebox. We also have Taylor Hoskins Bazzoni. She's also with Shepherd's, and she's our A&D Solutions Specialist. She serves as a support to the A&D community by providing resources for our furniture line. Holly Black Irvine resides in Kansas City, and she's our Steelcase Architecture Solutions consultant. She covers our region, and her and I work hand in hand together on projects and informing others of the benefits of our product line. And then we also have Justina Georgeson from Steelcase. She's a business development manager for them, and she is the local Steelcase manufacturer rep who is involved in all levels of the projects here. Lastly, we have Jacob Bagley, and he resides in Grand Rapids. He's a regional sales manager for Orangebox, covering multiple regions. And prior to this role that he has, he was a team member of the marketing team at Steelcase. So I'm going to hand it off to Jacob, and then he will go ahead and introduce our other members.
Hi, everybody. Like Joe said, I'm Jacob Bagley. I'm here in Grand Rapids. I'm actually sitting in one of our products right now in our showroom in Grand Rapids, Orangebox Air 3, which our team will get into it later. Again, I want to thank you all for joining. We're really excited to show you guys, some of the research that we've done, and something we're really excited about, helping everybody get back to the office and helping people really enjoy their workspace. So I'm gonna hand it off to our colleagues over in the UK, actually in our London showroom right now. Adrian Welch, who's a global key account manager, and then we have Nathan Hurley, who's our lead researcher and insight manager.
Thank you, Jacob, and hello everybody. Thank you for joining us here in London today. We'll introduce ourselves and just very quickly introduce Orangebox for those of you who haven't met us or don't know anything about us. So Orangebox is a nearly 20-year-old business. We were founded here in the UK and founded by a designer. And so from day one, design has always been at the heart of our business. And that's led by our research and insights team, which Nathan is part of. You're going to see today some of our thoughts and latest impressions of the world of workplace right now. And then, as Jacob mentioned, we're going to take you on a tour of some of the spots around this showroom here in London, and we're going to focus on the products that is available for you to specify and use in the US right now. All the products you'll see today are manufactured in the US and so fully available to you right now. So yeah, I'm Adrian Welch. I spent 4 years based in the US when Orangebox first began there 6 years ago. And I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Nathan to introduce himself and begin our presentation.
Thank you, Adrian. It's an absolute pleasure today, everybody, to be presenting to you a wonderful project from my team, the Research and Insight Department. For us at Orangebox, it's really important that we have an idea of where we're heading in regards to our interior architecture. So my team within our workspace, above our door, if you like, we have a mantra that we subscribe to. There's a wonderfully poetic soccer player here in Europe, a Dutch football player called Johan Cruyff, an absolute legend of the game. And what he says is, you don't move to where the ball is, you move to where the ball is going to be. And you could adapt that to any sport globally, whether that be ice hockey or basketball. So for us in interior architecture and within the world of furniture, it's important that we try and understand where we're heading. not designing today for the solutions that we might need for today. It's all about for tomorrow. And so the Hula Hoop Office is a wonderful project for us in the team, and I'm going to take us through to the story here today. One thing that we've all been battling with, doesn't matter where you are in the world, if you're in Sydney, Singapore, London, or New York, we all may be asking ourselves some of these questions. Am I working from home, or am I living at my work right now? I'm being asked to perform certain tasks in spaces that I never thought that I would be performing those tasks for a certain amount of time. So for us, we've changed some of our default settings. And so how can we start to readapt and repurpose some of our spaces back in the office? You will have seen, depending upon which timeline you're currently looking at, whether it be LinkedIn, Instagram, or on the daily news feeds, this narrative that's being spun. The office is dead. Forget about it. So downtown CBDs, our kind of big city districts, the way in which we move to work and go to work, all of that has changed. And of course, some components of that have changed. Technology has now enabled us to be working remotely with certain levels of efficiency. But I'd like to, at Orangebox, and I know it's Steelcase too, that we'd like to actually challenge that narrative, because all that narrative is the media trying to create, and I sound like some sort of media basher, and I'm certainly not that, but that is a narrative that is being spun to create levels of certainty in a moment of mass uncertainty. So, we're facing a kind of a position where we're not sure where to turn in regards to investment in either technology or office spaces. And so what we try and do as human beings is create a level of certainty so that we feel comfortable, so that it gives us that nice release of dopamine and that we feel that we can move forward and be creative, rather than being hamstrung by uncertainty. And we do this time and time again as a society. It's a well-versed behavior that we all have. And when we faced a crisis in late 2001, of course, in the tragedy of 9/11, this was the narrative of the day post that unfortunate event. The age of the skyscraper is over. Forget about it. We will no longer be living and working in these tall buildings in our central city districts. That time has come to an end. And New York City went on to build half of its tallest skyscrapers since that date. And so as we try and spin these narratives of certainty, the human being, of course, has no idea where we're heading. And so that makes my job in the research and insight team really, really difficult, but important that we do have a level of understanding about where we may be heading. So I want to come on to our project, the Hula Hoop Office, that tries to create a narrative for our clients. And really importantly, one of our major clients here in Europe have really adopted this project, and that's HSBC, one of the world's largest banks. And how do we create this safe return to work, but change the narrative slightly, the angle of approach, because there's a lot of police tape that's gone up, a lot of perspex, a lot of acrylic, and saying, don't go to this space, don't go to that space, don't use this service, you can't use that coffee machine, the gym is now off limits, you can only park in these certain spaces. And so we want to try and change that narrative, because that's one that isn't going to encourage you to come back to work. There have been many surveys conducted. I want to dwell just on this one for a moment. And this may be the most obvious thing I'll say today, but as we've been surveyed and charted over the last 6 to 9 months, it's quite clear now that actually some of that personal, isolated, that concentrated work, I can tuck myself at home and I can get on with those projects. I can get on with that work typology. But actually, when it comes to socializing with either clients or my internal team, I need to get back to work. We're all social animals, and so we need that connection. And so that gives us a great mandate to move forward. And of course, we now have this new behavioral contract with our workplace that we never really had before. And I have a different one with my gym. I have a different one with the bakery. I have a different one with my children's school. And I have all these different contracts that I have to sort of memorize in my mind and go, okay, I can behave like this here, I can behave like that there. due to different restrictions in different spaces. And so this has the ability to actually create some low-level anxiety and some sort of low levels of stress. So at Orangebox, we want to try and remove that stress and anxiety. We want to be as positive as we possibly can be. And remember, at the moment here in the UK, we're in total lockdown, so nobody going to work. Me and Adrian have made an exception here today. But the Hula Hoop Office is all about in your mind's eye, as you walk into your space, and the behavioral contract is now that you put on that hula hoop around your waist and you're hula hooping around your environment. And that's a great way in which you can enter a space, feel a bit more confident, feel a bit more trustworthy of your colleagues, and a great way in which we can move forward. So depending upon where you are in the world, that hula hoop is either going to change in size. It's going to be 3 foot, it's going to be 2 foot, it's going to be 6 foot, depending upon where you are and the current restrictions in place. But really, it's an ideology that we think drives some positivity. It hopefully puts a little smile in the mind, and importantly, builds some trust back into the workplace, because we've got some precautions that we'd like to take, some recommendations. The first recommendation is very much like when we board an airplane, and if a mishap happens on the airplane, you need to put your mask on before you help others. Hopefully nobody's ever been in that situation, but that's really important. So think about it. So you need to look after yourself before you look after others. Before you get actually to the team game. Now the team game is really important, because what we don't want is to have people not adhering to some of those recommendations, and then you will create some mistrust. And we don't want that. We want everybody to be moving in the right direction. Number 3, as a recommendation, has been one of the hardest for us, certainly within interior architecture, to try and overcome. This is traffic flow and trying to organize people and move them in the correct way at the correct time, in the correct fashion. And that's been rather difficult. What we have learned is that signage does not work as impactfully as physical barriers. Now that's a real challenge, because we want a space to be as welcoming and as open as possible, and a barrier is almost the antithesis of that. And so that's a real challenge that we need to overcome. And then number 4, actually approaching colleagues face on. Now I know that sounds a little bit odd and weird, but it's important so that we don't give people a fright and some anxiety. Number 5 and 6 are all about actually creating a bit of a foundation and a base, somewhere where you can call home when you get to work. That's really important. A lot of respondents in the surveys have said, actually, I'm happy to come in, but I want to feel comfortable and safe. And this word here as a design team has been really important for us at Orangebox, this word reappropriation. How do we adapt and flex and evolve some of our spaces? And I know you may appreciate that some of those words might just fall out of my mouth and be sort of buzzwords. They're really important, that how we can change some of the spaces to make them appropriate for this hula hoop project. And rather than just living in our design team and being an ideology, we thought, well, we need to manifest this in a certain way. And we've been working with so many of our largest clients here in Europe, and HSBC being one of them. We created these 5 accessories that really help people adapt to the Hula Hoop Office. The first one being this placemat. Now the placemat is great because it gives you a sense of a foundation. It's your bed for the day, and this can be teared off at reception. You can go and find the spaces that you want to go and find. The thing above that is what we call the workplace hood. Now this is designed to maybe be stored in a cupboard or a unit, and then brought out when somebody wants a little bit more privacy or a little bit more focus. Or maybe somebody's feeling a little bit shyer today and I want a little bit more cover. So that's great. Cardboard, so that they're recyclable. And then these little messaging lollipops, they're great because these form the antithesis of the crime scene tape, if you like. That's really important, that we deliver messages in a positive way. And then I think one of my favorite accessories that we've rolled out are these removable seat covers. HSBC, they have a 6,000 capacity bank in central London, a skyscraper, and none of the meeting rooms were open during the summer when people were starting to return back to work, and so people didn't have anywhere to go and have a meeting. And so all of a sudden these ancillary spaces are really important to connect people together. And so these little upholstered seat covers are a great way in which we can avoid the awkwardness of allowing people to sit in certain spaces. And of course, you can see that these don't just live in renders. Of course, we've been rolling these out, and these have been a great success for us at Orangebox. So a great way in which we can deal with some of the negativity that surrounds some working landscapes today. And then our design team have certainly been busy, because how do we go about actually reappropriating some of those spaces? That's really important that we think about that, because our clients, whether it be HSBC or anybody else, has invested actually quite a lot of capital in our furniture typologies, and so we can't just throw them out. We need to reappropriate them, and so that's what this project is all about. And some of these visuals do a great job of actually creating a blueprint for architects, designers, and for our clients themselves about, okay, this feels right. This is a space in which I can adapt and flex. Even just the AirPods that Jacob is sitting in at the moment, a lot of those have been certainly in the Far East, in Shanghai, Singapore, have immediately been turned into video conferencing rooms, and certainly within HSBC too, that's the case. And even just here, the individual focus booths of Coppice, really important little spaces to either be working or learning within, give you a little bit of a hunker, a bit of a comfortable space. So that's really important. And you can also see a product that we have called Away from the Desk here in the bottom left-hand corner. That upholstery system has so many different components to it. Adrian and I might maybe showing you on the tour a little bit of Away from the Desk later on. You know, over 100 different modules in which we can create different spaces for different working practices. So that flexibility in the design really helps as we try and design spaces for the future. Something that we also see in Away from the Desk here, just right front of center, we've been considering privacy for a long time at Orangebox. And so what happens with privacy normally is that we create high back furniture. But actually in the hula hoop workplace, it might actually be better to lower some of that furniture down so that we can have clear sight lines of who's coming, and that can make us feel a lot more comfortable in the workplace. You're more accessible to the people in the space. And it's not just all about work, it's about learning too. How do we create spaces that are efficient for people as they come into our environments and they learn? That's more important than ever before, because it's not, I'm not going to come into my office space now to open up my Excel spreadsheet and spend 8 hours a day in that work mode. No, I'm going to come back to collaborate with my colleagues. I'm going to come back to learn about all the wonderful products or projects that my business might be working on. And so it's important that we think about those spaces too. And just here in the middle, a corral, if you like, of Away from the Desk single booths. Those are really important, because how do you create a meeting room in the open plan? So those are great spaces. You've got power, you've got tablets. Those are a great solution to creating meeting spaces in the open plan. And so you'll see all of these wonderful products throughout the portfolio can really be combined and come together to create solutions that are going to help us as we move forward, and we need more flexibility. Just one of the last things I will mention, in the top right hand corner here, you'll see a product called Border, and I've got a colloquial name for Border, and it's the bus stop. It's a great product actually for people who are being transient around the space on a movement. The reason it's a bus stop, because I'm going from A to B in my office, and these are a great space to stop off at, grab a coffee, and you're on display to other colleagues, whether you're either just before you're going into a meeting or you're just after. They're a great place for people who are moving around to have a stop and have a break. But we may touch on that, more of that a little bit later on. So the Hula Hoop Office encapsulates all of these wonderful products within the portfolio. Now, just before I go, I do want to touch upon one other project that my team has been working on, and just very briefly. I authored a project last year called The Sticky Campus and the New Dynamics of Smart Learning. And it charted how our younger generations, iGen, are moving through our educational spaces, and what impact is that going to have on workplace in the next decade. And so a really, I think, important area of study. And so it covered lots of different chapters. this movement that organizations are on to networks over hierarchies. That's really important. University, YouTube, the impact of more digital learning. And so we covered lots of varying chapters. But one thing I did want to focus on just for a moment is that university architects have already had to reevaluate the role of our fixed PCs and the anchoring of the technology to so many different spaces, because all of their students are turning up with 2, 3, 4 different devices. And so when you enter a campus, people are already working in a free-range chicken way rather than some of the battery hen style working modes that we see. And so our university architects have already started to solve this challenge. And it's all about activity-based learning. We've all heard of activity-based working, but of course it's about activity-based learning. I can move between all of these different spaces depending upon what work I need to do in that moment. And those are the spaces that our younger generations are now moving through. And so all of a sudden our working arena needs to react to that. All of a sudden I don't want to turn up on day one at work and you're telling me I've got to sit in one space for 8 hours a day. And so some of the most innovative spaces that we're seeing right now are within our higher educational network. And so some wonderful spaces, all about variety. I get to choose where I want to work, at what time and who with. And that level of flexibility is really going to impact our workplaces. And so just the last slide there is, this is the impact of choice and variety for users of a space, not just students, both students and employees. Innovation, job performance, personal satisfaction and workplace satisfaction, all of those indices go up just because I get choice about where I work today. So that's all from me. I hope I haven't bored anybody there. We've got more exciting things to come. We've got a showroom tour, and I believe we're going to start the showroom tour now, me and Adrian. So we are just going to take ourselves on a bit of a tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here we go.
And thank you, Nathan. Always great to hear that research and insight. And hopefully for those of you out there listening and watching, there's some good relevant stuff for you, whichever field you're in. We know we have some designers and some of you actually out there using this furniture. So there is a question and answer feature on this Teams Live. So if there is anything specific as we go around, Jacob's watching that and can jump in and ask any questions to us as we walk around. But yeah, our plan now is to take a walk around the space and showcase some of those products. So I'm going to start with those meeting pods that Nathan highlighted and that Jacob is sitting in Grand Rapids. So the pod range began nearly 10 years ago for us now, and it came out of a simple question: why build walls? Why build as much fixed architecture if you can make an enclosed space that's as flexible as a piece of furniture? So that was the kind of start point, and we began with some fairly simple fixed rooms with a solid roof on, with some air circulation that were creating these meeting pods. And obviously a lot of people will be familiar with the phone booth market that's exploded, but our pods really focused on those small to medium sized spaces where people can either go and do some heads down work, or they can meet with another person, or create larger meetings or groups. Now, I mentioned 6 years ago we first came to the Americas, and when we looked at this product, there was one big challenge with the product, and that was, how do you make a room as flexible as a piece of furniture in a sprinklered building? And so a clever designer at some point said, oh, if only we could just make the roof disappear. But then actually went away and made that happen. So I'm going to first of all explain the most fundamental thing with these meeting pods, and that is the roof system. So behind me we have, this is roughly a 5 foot by 9 foot room. It's the smallest room in the series. You can see right now there's a louvered roof, and that roof is open. And that's because there's nobody in it, and therefore it has more than 70% open space. It meets NFPA 13 requirements. The sprinklers of the building would cover the inside of that pod. If I walk inside it, and I haven't touched anything, I've just walked in, there's a motion sensor up on the roof there. It's detected that somebody is inside it, and it's now automatically closing that roof. So what that means is I can come into this room now and I can work in an acoustically private space. And so this one, as I mentioned, is a 5x9. We typically set these up as 1 to 2 person spaces. Right now, with social distancing and some of the things Nathan highlighted in the hula hoop, typically this is a 1-person space, sometimes with a workstation at one end, perhaps a visitor chair that someone could come into and sit at. You do still maintain that 6 foot of distance. One of the other key reasons this is the smallest room size is for ADA compliance. So again, with the correct furniture arrangement, you do still have a 5-foot turning circle. And if Nathan just pans down to the floor, another key feature of the product, this isn't actually, it doesn't have its own floor. We've laid carpet tile inside here, but it's just sitting on the existing floor of the building. And that threshold meets ADA requirement as well. We could spend another hour on this product, we won't. Jacob's available to deep dive along with the teams at SBI. You know, we have a lot of experts on this product, but this is already proven and validated across the Americas. We've installed over 1,500 of these pods in multiple jurisdictions right across the US and have met all the requirements needed by the local teams, by the local fire marshals and the local AHJs. It's something that we always stay super close to and involved in because that roof system is globally unique. And so when people see it for the first time, they need a deep level of understanding. So that's the fundamental of the pod. Because the fail-safe of that roof is in the open position, the way it achieves that, there's 2 stages of heat detection. And actually here in the UK, that's a smoke detector, but in the Americas, it would be a heat sensor. And then there's a secondary fusible link. If either of those are knocked out or activated, the roof cannot stay shut. There are actuators on the roof that mean that roof springs to the open position. And just to demonstrate that, I'm just going to turn the power off. And as soon as that power goes out, that roof cannot stay shut. So you can see now it's defaulting to the open position because there is no power running through the product anymore. So that's the real key part of it. There's 4 room sizes available. So I've mentioned this is the smallest, this is a 5x9. We're now going to take a little walk around the corner and look at the next size up, which is roughly 9x9. As we do, you can just see from an aesthetic point of view, there's 5 fabric panels, both inside and outside each pod. You can specify each of those in a different fabric. And again, all the detail on the different fabric ranges available, including a design text bleach cleanable fabric, are available on the product. So yeah, this room size is the 9x9, the Air 25, and so again, all exactly the same features. I walk into it, the motion sensor is picking me up, and it's closing the roof. The default is roof shut, lights on in the brightest setting, and there's an air circulation fan on the top, which is circulating the air automatically. As the user of the room, I do have options to control some of those things as well. So on here, there's a selection, and the first one is just the lighting. So I can actually select, we're in work mode right now. I can choose to go into think mode or present mode. And what that's doing is actually dimming or turning off some of the LEDs on the top. There is also the option, if I wanted to, when the motion sensor is activated, the roof stays shut typically, but you can actually manually open that as well. And I can select to either partially open it or fully open it. But of course, really important to say that that fail-safe of the roof is to spring open into the open position. We have a range of accessories as well, so you can actually specify whiteboards that replace a couple of the fabric panels on the inside and their magnetic glass. There's also monitor mounts. So actually, if we turn around the other way, Nathan, you can see that we have a monitor. This room's set up for video conferencing. So you can mount a monitor either onto the central column in this size room or through the fabric panels in a larger room. And then finally, we have a large range of furniture. A lot of our other product ranges that we'll come on and have a look at in a minute can be specified inside the pod as well to create either workstation or meeting settings. So that's the real high level of the pods. We'll turn back over to Jacob now, and we're going to do this as we walk through this space, just so he can highlight some great examples of how the product's been used and touch on any things I forgot, Jacob. So over to you.
Great, thanks, Adrian. So the reason we're kind of going to go back and forth a little bit is because there's a lot of construction. If you guys heard in the background, there's construction happening in the showroom. So Adrian and Nathan are going to kind of dip and dive around some of that construction to head to some of the other products. What I want to do is just show you some great installs that we have of Air 3 in the office and out there in the field. So if we're looking at these again, like Nathan and Adrian showed, these can be used for touchdown spaces. These can be used for things such as video conferencing spaces. These can be used for private offices. So you see in some of these different settings, and you can kind of start to think within your head, how can my space use this product? How can I envision myself using this? How can I envision my employees using these products? So you can see again, these are really great products, and to kind of touch on some of the things that Adrian said, these aren't tethered to the building in any way. So these are truly flexible pieces of furniture, so that we know, when we head back to the office, when we head back to school, when we head back to these places that we're working, we're going to need to be flexible. And I think that's something that we're being told by all of our employers, that we need to be flexible as employees. So when we head back to the office, we also are going to need flexible pieces of furniture, because things are going to continue to change over the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. So having a piece of furniture such as this, they can move, adapt, and react to what's happening, you're able to save yourself a lot of money, rather than building out rooms and rather than getting new furniture as we move on through the office. So again, you can see these set up in different ways, between touchdown spaces, video conferencing spaces, different meeting spaces. And another thing you'll see in some of these is some aftermarket glass filming. So you're able to do that. You're able to put designs on. If you want to name the rooms, pod 1, 2, 3, 4, you can have these as rentable spaces for your employees. You can have different things on here that can really allow the user to feel like the inside of their unit is private. And this photo is a really great one, because it kind of shows, if you have these buildings, these former maybe warehouse spaces, you have these really high ceilings, how the pod looks within the unit. So again, you don't need to hook this up to HVAC. You don't need to hook this up to any plumbing or anything. So it just sits right on the floor. So you can see this is actually the CEO of Steelcase's office. He sits in an Air 23, and in the space that he's in, it was previously a manufacturing facility. This is a space that he sits in, and it's a really great way to show how you can use these as different spaces. Again, kind of showing these spaces in different settings throughout offices, showing how you can kind of stack these into different bays. So again, if you need meeting spaces, if you're in retail banking, if you're using these as private offices, if you're using them for education, for collaboration spaces, these really show some great spaces within the office, within the educational space, within spaces such as healthcare as well, if we're thinking about telemed and things like that. So Air 3 is truly a flexible space that we can use within the office. So again, we're really excited to have Nathan and Adrian in the showroom. So I'm going to turn it back over to them and allow them to show you guys some more of the product that we were talking about.
Okay, here we are back in London. So thank you, Jacob. We've now moved to another floor of the building to showcase Cub. So again, you may have seen some of the seating and tabling that forms Cub in the hula hoop settings that Nathan presented, but we have a really nice area here that showcases the huge variety within the Cub family that you can actually create. So as I mentioned, it's tables, it's seating, and then it's also bar height stools as well. So let's look at the tables first. So we're showing here the project table, and then also the standard team height table. The key thing to highlight with Cub is a lot of the detailing flows through all the product. So the wooden leg detail is mirrored on the seating, the tables, both high and low, on the stools, and also on some of the individual benches we'll show you in a second. Some of the other great details on the Cub table, on the taller one here, just this metal section on the underneath, some of the support structures, just some really nice details there. And another important one, if Nathan's camera work is up to it, is that there's an ability to feed the cabling inside the leg. So again, just keeping that super neat and tidy, you can just wipe any power inside that leg detail, and that goes for all the different tables within Cub. Again, a big variety of shapes and sizes, so from little occasional circular tables right up to these really big team tables that we're showing here. And then all the different seating that you're seeing around this is also part of the Cub fabric. So in its simplest form, there's the chair without arms, and that either comes on a four-legged wooden base, or we've actually got a couple of other options behind me. Sorry, Nathan, out of your way. So there's a wireframe base with a huge range of colour options on the leg on that. There's also a caster base and a 4-star base. So we see this product line used in a huge variety of settings, from some of the education settings that Nathan already showed us, into healthcare, into the corporate environment. You know, this one, for example, with one of the different arm details, is one of the go-to products in our meeting pods. In fact, these two both get used regularly. And so we're also showing the different arm options there. There's a wireframe arm, there's this upholstered arm, or there's the option to have no arm at all. One of the other details I really like with Cub, and we're showing that on this seat, is that the inner and outer shell are two completely separate pieces. So you can actually mix and match different fabric ranges, different types. Here we're actually showing a vinyl on the outside and then a fabric on the inside. Because those two connect to each other, you have that ability to do that from a design point of view. And then finally, we're showing a couple of the kind of little baby of the range, the little three-legged stools here. And actually, if we move back around the other way, there's a couple of different options on this. And so again, one of the things we see these used quite often is actually positioned against the outside of one of our meeting pods. Just a great spot, that kind of moment before or after a meeting, before everyone gathers together, when we can do that again. These make a great option just to position in areas like that. So again, I think Jacob's probably got some great examples lined up, because Cub's been super popular in the Americas, and we've used it across a range of applications. So back to you, Jacob.
Great. Thanks, Adrian. So again, like Adrian said, you know, we have a lot of great uses for Cub between different sectors of business. So to kind of show you some great uses for it again, you know, if we're thinking about a library setting, or we're thinking about education, these can be great in those settings. You can see Cub tables and Cub seating here used. And again, one thing that's important, kind of like Nathan reminded us, you know, and even in the office now, we need power with all the devices that we have. So there are power availability options for the Cub tables to have for plugins and whatnot. And here you can kind of see, you know, one of the Cub occasional tables, along with some of the benches and stools here in a different setting. And then if we're moving here, so actually I'm going to touch on border too real quick, because I don't think we're able to show border today in the showroom because of all the construction. So again, seeing border in these different settings to where you're having it border a room, having it border a conference room, or having it, like Nathan said, a little pit stop to where you're in a cafe and you need to have a quick coffee with someone, or it really allows you to be open for collaboration. And I think with what's going on now, you know, that's something that we're really missing out on is the collaboration aspect. So if we're looking at some of these more Cub settings, you know, pairing the Cub tables and Cub seating together really look great aesthetically, because like Adrian said, that wood leg on the tables and that wood leg on the seating really pair together really well. And then with the exposed hardware, you have the availability to have those in different colors and different options for those. So again, showing these again in different settings with all the different bottom options you have between wire leg, 5-star base, 4-star base, wood leg base. So you have a lot of different options. And you can see here again, just the aesthetic of this is really pleasing to the eye, because even if you have different colors and different fabrics of things happening, you still have that great wood leg that really blends in with everything within these settings. So we'll move down here again, showing this in the 4-star trestle base, showing the wood leg with a different finish. We have several different finishes that we have for the wood leg, for the tables and the seating, and then just showing these again in different aspects, different ways. It's really one of our customers' favorite, because you can really customize these as you see fit for your area between different colors, different fabrics. Different ways you can really set these up with each other. So again, all of these have some great showings of Cub. So I'm going to pop it back over to Adrian to show one of our other products.
Cool. Thank you, Jacob. So yeah, we have now moved to our Aspect product. And one of the things to point out, going back to Nathan's presentation, the hula hoop, one of the things we're finding with HSBC, for example, but many of the other clients that we've worked with for a number of years, they're really embracing the idea that actually the COVID pandemic is giving them the opportunity to rethink their workplace strategy, their real estate strategy, in a way that they maybe wanted to for a while, but this is the real catalyst to do it. But one of the things of doing that is giving those alternative spaces and a mixture of high back and low back settings. And so Aspect is always a high back. It's either an individual 1 seat, 2 seat or 3 seat, or as we're showing here, it can actually be combined with a joining section to create these 1+1, 2+2, 3+3 settings. So there's always a connected table in there when it's a booth like this. There's the option of power below the table. And there is also the option, we'll see that in a moment, of putting a monitor in there. But this kind of 1+1, which right now is really just a 1, I'll get into it. We've had some clients say, no, we don't want power, we don't want technology. We want this as a great spot for a human being to go and talk to another human being and just spend 20 minutes engaging with each other without their devices and without a screen. Because we've all had enough of screens, I think, in the last 9 months. I know I have. And one of the things it says on our front door, Orangebox is about connecting people, not furniture. And that's really one of the things at the heart of the design of a lot of our products. So this is the smallest version of Aspect. And if we move over this way, this is the largest version. So this is the 3-seater, but again, combined to give you that, that booth setting. And we're going to show you our away from the desk range in a moment. Aspect and away from the desk are complementary in that they can both achieve this type of setting. Aspect is more of a lounge setup, and it's been super popular in hospitality, especially. This particular setup has been standardized on by Crowne Plaza. We've been rolling it out through the Americas the past 18 months, and they've now extended that rollout globally. So we're providing them in across Asia, in Europe and China as well. And part of the reason for that is it actually gives a great acoustic experience. With the high back, with the fabric and the materials used, it gives a great experience in a hotel lobby setting where there's a bit more noise going on. It really dampens that sound as you sit down into it and stops distraction. So that's Aspect. There is just behind us actually another one of it as a single unit. So I mentioned, obviously you've seen it as a booth. Here it is as that single standalone unit as well. So Jacob, back to you again while we scurry downstairs to find some away from the desk.
Great, thanks, Adrian. So like Adrian said, Aspect is another great product. You know, when we're looking to allow people to start collaborating again, and those can be used in either booth settings or individual freestanding units. So like I said, the unit that Adrian was sitting in right here, you can see that smaller setting with the TV option. You can see it without the TV option, and then you can see it really in this team setting. So how can we use this space in a team setting to where we need to collaborate? We want these open air space meetings. We want these spaces that we can really get back together and begin to talk to each other. Some other great spaces you'll see them being used, you know, in these long hallways or these long corridors where we have these more open spaces. And again, if we want this flexible piece of furniture that's going to allow for not only visual privacy, we also have some great acoustical privacy like Adrian mentioned. So you can see this top right hand corner, you know, if we're looking to have that one-on-one meeting and we need to be socially distant, we're able to move the Aspect as far apart as we need to, and maybe have a little occasional table in the middle between us so you can drop your coffee, you can drop your computer or whatever, but we're able to have this conversation with the visual privacy and with the acoustic privacy, as you can see. Or if we're looking more, you know, in that library setting to where we're going to set these up in the library and spaces for a student to hop down and maybe do some homework or do a a video class or whatever in their spaces, you can really see how not only aesthetically pleasing these are, but the wide range of fabric and availability you have to change different colors within the unit. You know, having the seat different from the rest, having the upper back different, having the outer back different. So you have a lot of different options. And again, this is another designer favorite that they can really go in and make this their own, and customers can really make this their own to where they can have it blend with everything else within their space. So again, just some other great settings. You can see this is one that Adrian and Nathan were sitting in earlier. Here's maybe this one-on-one meeting space. You know, if Adrian and I need to hop down and I need to show him a deck I just made. So we're able to hop down in there between just both of us. We can throw it on the screen real quick and kind of review some work. So these again are just showing them in different spaces and the aesthetic of them. And another thing so you're about to see away from the desk. So kind of notice the differences between away from the desk and aspect, to where the aesthetic of aspect is up on these legs, and you have the availability to have different finishes on those legs compared to what you're going to see with away from the desk, which sits all the way to the floor. So even though they are very similar products and they do similar things, the aesthetic can be completely different. So that's aspect. I'm going to again flip it back over to our guys in London and allow them to show you some away from the desk.
Cool. We've now made our way down to the entrance space of the showroom here. So you may pick up a little bit more noise. Some of our colleagues are actually here on Zoom calls, surprise, surprise, or Teams calls rather. So we're going to showcase away from the desk now. And as Jacob mentioned, and again Nathan highlighted in the Hula Hoop, away from the desk is a huge range of upholstery product. There's over 70 different units that make it up. So it's a really, really modular system. And you're seeing one setting of it here, and it's really demonstrating the variety in heights that you have with away from the desk. You're actually seeing this is the simplest module here on the end. So it's just a simple low bench, no back at all. That's the start point for the whole product. You then have straight elements, 120-degree elements. There's also curved, there's 90-degree, so a huge amount of different settings. Our colleague Liz is sat on the end of the unit here, and what you're able to do with away from the desk is create those choices. So Liz could be sitting here, where she'd have a bit more visual and acoustic privacy, but actually she's on a call that she's quite happy to be semi-disturbed. We told her we were coming. Yeah, that option to have either low, mid or high back is a really key part of away from the desk. Another thing that away from the desk does that all Orangebox products do, they're designed with actual work in mind. These aren't residential pieces that are being repurposed for a work environment. They were designed with work in mind. And to that point, away from the desk is a slightly shallower, firmer and higher sit than a lot of lounge product. So it's 19-inch high, it's a shallower sit, so you're actually connected to that back section. So I'm getting some lumbar support. And then all the tabling, and there's a huge range of both integrated tables and integrated power. That means that you can get yourself in a good ergonomic position when you're using this product to actually get work done. And you can plug in and charge your device if you need to sit there for an hour or two. And this is one of the products we're already seeing huge uptake in, where people are looking to that repurposing of the workspace to more of a social hub, more of a space that people are going to go, like the statistics Nathan quoted, I'm doing my focus work maybe at home, I'm coming into the workplace to actually collaborate and sit right now at a distance from my colleagues and get that work done. So yeah, away from the desk is a really, really flexible, varied product. There are some standalone elements to it as well, some single seats. You may have seen those in the Hula Hoop that Nathan ran through, because some of those again have the option of high back or low back. Nathan mentioned sight lines earlier on. Some people are actually preferring the lower back right now, so you can have 360-degree vision and actually judge where everyone else is in the space. So again, I think Jacob will probably hand back over to you to give a summary of away from the desk. Before we do, we'll, we're in the entrance hall to the showroom. One thing we didn't touch on, you might have seen the term smart working. We actually call this our smart working space. So 5 floors of Orangebox product. The term smart working to us means that our products are designed to fill in the gaps between the traditional types of furniture. We're bringing new typologies and we're allowing people to do that productive work away from the traditional workstation. So back to you, Jacob.
Thanks, Adrian. I really appreciate you guys joining. And so I'm gonna go over this last kind of lookbook of Away from the Desk. And like Adrian was saying, there's 70 different pieces of Away from the Desk that have thousands and thousands of different configurations. So again, I've said this a lot, but Away from the Desk may be one of designers' favorite and one of our clients' favorite because you can really make this your own and you can really change how you use these. So in some of these settings, you'll see here like in educational settings, having these individual kind of pods or booths that people can touch down into study and for work. If we're thinking of the open floor plan, if we need this product that someone can go to and have a phone call real quick, do some heads down work, then I think this is a really great product when we're heading back to the office. Again, you can really see how you can play with colors, fabrics, and you can change the different colors between the seat and the back and the hood. It's just really a great product that we can use. Again, if we're looking at these larger units of Away from the Desk, again, very similar to Aspect, but if you see the aesthetic is a little bit different on these by going all the way to the floor. And like Adrian said, the sit is a little bit different too. Away from the Desk was really made to be used from what its name is derived from, working away from the desk. So how can I work in this space for longer than a half hour without slouching down? How can I be in these spaces for hours on end and still have great ergonomical support and great lumbar support? And that's what Away from the Desk really brings in these settings. So again, you can see how these can be used in booth settings as well. And this client on the right really went crazy with being able to design and use different colors and fabrics. But you can see with these two, very similar to how Aspect had their booths, but you can have some larger settings with these as well. You can have some closed-end settings. You could have some open-end settings. So these are a really great product to use along with Aspect. So you can see here again, how can we really configure and conform, and how can we really use these spaces in our office and have some fun with it. So you can see these different spaces here. One of the products that we weren't able to show, this is SCOMER. So again, if we're talking about being flexible and we're talking about using these different pieces of furniture in multiple different facets, Aspect, Sully, and Ramsey are great units that come on casters that you're able to use and move. And it's great in educational spaces, and it's great in the office. It's great in healthcare spaces. Products that we can have and we can move around these casters. And again, for Away from the Desk, we have these options for tabling on the outside. There's power where you need it. The sit is great, and there's just, again, thousands and thousands of different ways you can configure Away from the Desk, and a lot of different ways you can use it. So you can see in all these photos how the designers and how the customers were really taking Away from the Desk and making it their own, because you can see in all these different photos, typically not one use of Away from the Desk is the same. So if we're looking at different clients where they use it, everyone kind of imagines what they need, and then designers really go to work and really do a great job of even envisioning things that us at Orangebox didn't even think of ways using Away from the Desk. Just the creativity that people can use and really bring to fruition with Away from the Desk, and different ways you can combine these units. So again, you can see how these are really used in these open floor plan offices, how Away from the Desk can really bring customers together, bring clients together, bring students together to get their best work done. So again, another pieces of Away from the Desk that sometimes get lost. We have these standalone units. So this is the Huddle Buddle table. Again, great for education, great for that K through 12. You can imagine how these could be used in a setting. We have these great pieces, which is a standalone media unit. So again, think about if we're heading back to the office or in educational spaces or in healthcare spaces, if we need more of those open air meeting spaces, this is a great unit to have, and you can have it on the end of your Away from the Desk units, or you can have it as a freestanding unit. Again, if we're showing these, power exactly where you need it, right in the arm, you're available to sit down and work and be able to plug in your devices as you need them. Again, some great shots of Away from the Desk 8102 in this standalone unit, and then showing these and how you can really combine Away from the Desk and have these very, very large spaces of Away from the Desk seen here. You can see these partnered with Cub. I think I showed this image earlier. And then again, Away from the Desk as kind of a sofa unit. So we've showed it a lot with a high back. So here's what Away from the Desk looks like without that high back on there. Again, I could show you photos probably all day away from the desk in different ways it can be used. Again, we think this is probably one of the most relevant, other than Air 3, one of the most relevant products we have right now with what's happening in today's world. So we're really excited. We're really happy that you guys were able to join us today. And I'm sure Nathan and Adrian, we're really happy to bring you guys on a showroom tour of the London showroom. We hopefully here soon we'll be able to show you what we're putting in the London showroom. But again, it's really exciting. We're really excited to have you guys all here. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe. If you guys have any questions on any products or anything that you saw today, please drop it in the chat and I'll be able to answer your questions. But again, thanks a lot. We really appreciate everyone's time. We'll turn it over to Joe to kind of close us out here.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, Adrian, Jacob, and Nathan, for this amazing event. It was definitely insightful and a very exciting way to kind of see the other side of the world and what you guys are doing in Orangebox. So very exciting. Thank you everybody that participated and took their time out of their busy schedule today to join us. We do want to let you know that this has been recorded and it will be available for you to watch and also share with colleagues. And if you would like to have more answers or have more questions regarding any of these products that you saw today, please don't hesitate to reach myself, reach out to myself or Taylor. We would be more than happy to provide you with any resources that you would need. So with that, I just want to have you guys have an amazing week, and thank you again for joining us.